that we have choices.
Hi, everybody. Helen here from Positive Space. Last week, Debbie Phillips was my guest, and this week is part 2. Last week, we talked about how she dealt with her breast cancer and how she came through with it and survived it. But there was a big caveat to this, and we're going to talk about it today. Debbie's late husband, Steve Phillips, had stage 4 colon cancer, and Steve passed away 7 years ago. Now, Debbie was Steve's compassionate caretaker, and 2.5 years after Steve passed away, Debbie was diagnosed with her own health crisis. But the thing is what we're going to talk about her being a caregiver, because whenever anyone is diagnosed with some kind of illness, cancer, whatever, there is always somebody that is got your back, that's taking care of you, that is going to do what you can't do for yourself. So we're going to get started. We have a lot of questions that I'm going to throw out at Deb. We're going to bounce around a little bit, but I know how it feels to be a caretaker, because when my mom had terminal lung cancer, I was her caretaker. And Deb, I'm going to ask you the first question. First of all, when you found out, aside from Steve being scared, how did you feel?
I think I was in shock. I was in shock.
Right.
And I knew that in that moment, I was going to have to step up and take a role that I wasn't sure I was equipped for.
Yeah.
I knew how much I loved Stephen. I would get that man to the moon if there was a way for me to do it, and if that's what he wanted. But I knew that I was going to have to step up and really step up. Yeah.
I'll tell you, it's amazing when you get hit with that. All of a sudden, you become, for me, when I was taking care of my mother, I became a tiger. That
yes.
This is what's going to happen. This is what we're going to do, and this is how it's going to go.
Correct.
It's basically, I became a parent to my parents.
Yes.
And don't you feel the same way?
Absolutely. And I had to be cautious with that, because I was his spouse. I am his spouse. I didn't want him to feel I was mothering him, but it is very hard to keep that line. And you're right. You almost want to tell the patient, okay, step back. I got this. And this is how it's going to go.
Yeah. All right. So when you you were blind, I felt blindsided when my mom was diagnosed. The first thing I did is, how did you address that? Okay, this is what we're going to do, and this is how it's going to go. I think my mom, she was older, of course. Steve was your age. Well, he was a little older. But the thing is how did you just take over? Because my mom was kind of, don't take away my independence. So
right.
Since you're taking away their independence, how did you feel when you did that?
And Stephen felt that to some degree. And then as he deteriorated, he would say, don't treat me as an invalid. My Stephen was, very athletic as a young person. He was a very strong man. He worked in a very male environment. So to show weakness was hard for him. And he was very protective. And actually, he was a very selfless, protective man himself. So he did not want to be treated as though he had weakened. But, you said it the best. I felt like it came out of left field and someone like clocked me on the head with this diagnosis. And what I learned is that I needed to respect how he felt as well. And once I could remind myself of that, like, he had the right to make choices. Interestingly, when he first had surgery for the colon cancer, we thought it was a great prognosis because only 1 of 16 lymph nodes was positive. We're thinking, so the doctor says, well, you will need chemo. Stephen said to me, I'm not doing chemo. So I say, okay, let's wait till we get in the car, which is very motherly, right? You better behave in the doctor's office and we'll discuss this in the car. So I get in the car and I very firmly, he said, I'm not doing it. Why don't I, get to say that? And I said, this is not, let's make a deal. You're doing it. And he was, we kind of laughed at that point, but I almost didn't give him an option. And then he kind of just went with it. And, and of course, then it just started the whole process.
Did you ever get mad at him? Because I remember sometimes I would get mad at my mother for being sick. And then one time I read this someplace and I never forgot it. I was mad at her for being sick because I knew I was going to lose her.
Yeah.
But then the article said, don't get so mad because they didn't ask for this either. And that hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
But did you ever get mad? Because I did get mad sometimes.
Interestingly, I know. I think I wouldn't say mad. I think I would get frustrated with him. Stephen was very stubborn. And, it was, because then it's, you have to drink, you have to do this, you have to do that. And, I would pester him a bit. And, or as he would probably say, nagging. But I would say frustrated. I felt for him because Stephen was struggling with his own diagnosis. He, for more than one reason, he felt that somehow he had a hand in it, that if he had done something differently, it might not have gone this way. Or, Stephen was raised in a wonderful Irish Catholic family, went to Catholic school as a little person. He said to me, I must have done something really bad, like what to deserve this.
Well, let me ask you something. How did you allay his fears? Because my mother never really showed fear. I was the one that felt numb. But how did you allay his fears when he would tell you were scared or anything like that?
It was really hard to watch this for Stephen because it was a struggle he was fearful. For the first few treatments, he wouldn't say very much. And oddly, I remember sitting with him and almost just sitting and staring at him as if, because you don't know what to expect, right? So I'm looking at him as if I'm going to see something happen to him. And I would every hour, are you okay? Are you okay? And unfortunately, his first treatment was a very difficult one. We ended up in the emergency room. He had a very bad reaction to one of the medications, and which led into it was 5-FU, and it can cause coronary artery constrictions. And he was actually having symptoms of a heart attack. So I had to rush him to the hospital, and he cried. He did cry. And sadly, he became depressed. And what I would do, it was difficult because, when you're given this kind of information, right now, okay, now you're stepping into this role, but don't forget your own feelings are still there. So your fears for your family, your fears financially, your fears in how do I keep our life as normal as possible with this happening now?
Now, regarding finances, did you go to any organizations to help you? Because as a caregiver, again, you're worrying about the finances, you're worrying about the appointments, you're being an advocate, you're asking the questions. So
yes.
Did you go to any other groups to try to help you as a caregiver?
What I did.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. What happened was I did speak to someone. There was a financial department within the doctor's office. And funny, because coming from Levittown, right? We all grew up in these little homes. Either it was a cape or a ranch, 1,600 square feet. We were happy as could be. Who needed more than this? And I remember when he, it became stage 4 and now he had to stop working. I remember the counselor saying to me, well, what can you do financially? Can you downsize? And I almost giggled. I said, downsize to what? I'm in a Levitt ranch of 1,600 square feet on Long Island. You don't downsize. I was working full time. I was not a high earner, but I was working full time through his treatment. Unfortunately, 2 months after Stephen's surgery and he started treatment, I ended up in the hospital with a bowel obstruction, emergency surgery. Then he was having side effects from chemo. So now I'm not working. He's not working. So what I did was—
How did they help? How did they help?
He actually gave me a list of organizations.
Okay.
Because everyone says, oh, just call the American Cancer Society. They're going to help you. Call this one, call that one. Okay. And then I was very fortunate because we really were surrounded by an army of angels, because there were people, in our family that their companies would donate to certain people, and he'd say, hey, my brother is ill right now. Would you consider it? Unfortunately, what happens with some of these foundations, and I would sit every so many months and call them or email them. I had notebooks I would keep. And unfortunately, a lot of times they're funded once a year. So as we know, when we donate to something, if the funding is not there, you can be approved. We were approved. But if what happens is by the time you've been approved, the funding is no longer there.
Oh my God.
It's based on donations. So like colon cancer at that time, June 1st was when their year started again. So now I'm applying, but there's no money. So
go ahead. Then
no, that's okay. That's okay. So what I did was I really reached out, every Colon Cancer Alliance. There are some foundations where you can actually get one set amount, like it could be $175 or $200 specific. What they will do is apply it to one of your largest bills. So at the time it was my mortgage. So you give them the information, they give you, and I was grateful, of course, because, and then our community actually rallied around Stephen, and friends from his childhood and high school and all walks of our life together, because we were married at 20 years old. So, now Stephen was 54 when he was diagnosed. So we just kept growing together as one.
Okay. Now I want to ask you a question. We're going to take this in a different direction. So obviously it's very important for you to reach out to organizations as a caregiver to get your finances in order to get help. Now, the next thing is I want to know, what are the 5 important characteristics that you think a caregiver should have? What are the 5 most important things?
Well, as we both know, patience is huge. And it is easy to lose your patience because you are tired, you're scared yourself, you're trying not to show all of these emotions, because as I felt, if I lose it or I come apart, what happens to Stephen? What will that do for him? So patience, definitely. And just as you said, remind yourself of what they're going through.
Yes.
What their concerns for themselves, for you, for anyone in their life. I mean, Stephen made a mark on everyone he met. I mean, his absence is palpable. So patience, compassion, be kind, right? Be kind and be respectful. Respect the patient. Respect, they have the right. Many times, people, oh, you have to get them here, you have to get them there, get this opinion, take them here. I was not going to say, hey, you have to get in the car, and I had to respect, he's the patient. He has the right to make decisions as well. So respect, certainly patience, compassion, kindness, empathy. And not everyone has that, but try to feel what they must be feeling. And they're not saying it as you're not saying things because you're protecting them. The patient is doing the same for you.
Now, how did you practice self-care going through any of this? Now, I've known you 25. I've known you a very long time. Double that.
Times 2 plus some bonus.
Okay. But how did you practice self-care? Because I know when I was doing this, it was draining. It was exhausting. I did the best I could, and I made some dreadful mistakes. And I want to ask you about self-care. And then I have another question to go into about when it was all over, did you think you did enough? So let's get the first question. How did you practice self-care when you were taking care of somebody else 24/7, 365?
I wasn't always great at that. In fact, Stephen's hospice nurse had said to me, you need to take some time For a long time, what I would do, and I think all my female friends can relate to this, is I would go to Home Goods and just walk the aisles and just to get out of the house.
Mhm.
But I was very fearful of leaving the house. This was my fear of leaving the house and God forbid something happened and I wasn't in the home. What I did do though, was I reached out to people in my life that I felt could support me. I read some books, not a lot, I mean, they can only tell you so much in a book. You have to feel these things, right? So someone in the family had recommended a book called The Final Gift. And I thought if I could read about being the best caregiver and do it, it could have been spending 10 extra minutes in the shower, just standing there under hot water.
Now, I know you, though. You really didn't do a lot of this, though, did you?
I didn't. I didn't. And you know what?
And how important is self-care when you're doing something?
It is. It absolutely is. And you owe it to yourself, because if you don't feed yourself, then you can't be the best caregiver. I mean, it is one of the most exhausting things you'll ever do. I remember in the final months and weeks, I had never in my life felt that tired, like physically, emotionally tired. And you think, no, self-care is so important, because if you're going to maintain a positive attitude, you need to feel good. You need to look good. You want to watch. I love scary movies. My Stephen didn't.
No. Oh,
so
God.
I know. So I would watch a scary movie because it's mindless entertainment. I'm an avid reader. So I would read, because reading, I know. You slept over once, and I think I tried to get you to watch a scary movie.
I've known Debbie 50 years. That's why we're laughing through this.
Yes.
Please forgive us. We have a very deep connection.
But if you can read, like find a book, it actually can remove you from your situation, take you out of your story a little bit, and put you into another one. So I totally, when I volunteer in the treatment room, I always acknowledge the caregiver. I mean, today we had a young girl. She's a granddaughter of the patient.
Well, before you go any further, I want everybody to know that you do give back in more ways than one. When you were a caregiver for Stephen, you also are a caregiver at the Novent Cancer Center in South Carolina, and you talk to the patients and their families and the nurses, even the oncology nurses, when they need a lift.
Yes.
And so, you keep giving back as a caregiver and a nurturer, which I think is the height of being an angel, Deb, and unselfishness, and just kindness. I think that's amazing. So I want to get to my next question.
Yes.
Because this weighed heavily on me, that when my mom passed, did I do enough? Did you ever feel like, my producer's writing mean things in the chat room for me. Thank you, Anna. She saw me twitch when Debbie said horror movies. Thank you.
But you know what? I want to say, can I point something out at this moment? Because we're talking about a serious situation, right? But yet we're keeping our humor. And what I did today is, I did not dress up for this, but what I did today, and was what I try to offer the patients in the treatment room, is I want you to read my shirt. It's my favorite shirt from chemo. It says, "Does this shirt make me look bald?"
I love it.
So I wore it to the treatment room a couple of weeks ago, and I have to wear my smock for Novant, purple. And I said, walk right in that treatment room. Guys, look at my t-shirt. This was my favorite t-shirt during chemo. But
what made people smile.
Yes. And what I want to point out is, Stephen and I did laugh during these times as well. You must find humor, right? If you don't, first of all, I don't cry pretty. So that's a problem. And then I look bad for 2 days after. So, humor is important as well. Yeah. So I think it's a situation where you might not find any laughter, but you need to. There is always something to just giggle and smile about.
Anna just wrote in the chat for us that I feel like I need to go to confession after laughing. Why is that, Anna? Can you come up? Can she come up? Why? Tell me why, my friend.
Because I was always taught that suffering and other people's illness are not a laughing matter. And I never thought that. I think positivity is not something that it's really touched upon. So that's why, like,
Yeah.
that whole psyche is like entered in my mind. And I'm just, oh my God.
You're feeling guilty about smiling and laughing a little bit.
Yeah, we don't do that here. We don't do that here, Anna. Come
No,
on.
no.
I mean, that's why I work with you, Helen. Like, you make me see everything like.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, I adore Anna. Without her.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the Twitch is actually live, so.
Great, good. Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much. All right, we got to get back to this very serious question, because when my mom passed,
and your mom was an amazing woman. You know what? Your mom, as you know, my childhood was not great. And I was pretty much what I would call a broken child. But your mom always saw something else in me. She just had that way. And she was very special.
Thank you. Thank you. So the hard part, now you, Deb, all right, I'm vain. I don't want my mascara to run. Okay, here's the thing.
Okay.
When it was all over, I had the feeling of, what could I have done more? What could I have done better? What did I do wrong? Because there were times, as I said, I was mad at my mother, you know, like, what else do you want? What else can I do? You know, because it was so frustrating. And, you know, she always forgave me if we had a squabble.
Right.
But the thing is, did you ever feel like, did I do enough as the caregiver? Did I do enough? Did you ever feel like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. Because you know what? Strangely, when you're caring for someone who's terminally ill, while you're caring for them, you don't realize this, but you're experiencing what we call anticipatory grief, right? So you think you're okay with it. You're anticipating the possibility. And then sadly, unfortunately, sometimes we are put into the grieving process.
Right.
But I thought while I was taking care of Stephen, as long as I did everything he needed as his needs changed, if I was the best caregiver that I could possibly be, somehow he was going to be okay. Somehow, you know, you need a longer cord for your oxygen. We need to bring in another machine for sleep. That's okay. We got this. You need something from Walmart? I got it. You need a hospital bed? No problem. So afterwards, you know, we also had moved down here only a year prior to Stephen dying, and it was his dream.
That was his dream. I remember you telling me.
Yes. So, you know, we had moved away from everything we knew and loved, but Stephen did not want to die in someone else's home. He did not want family to witness his death. And I promised him that would happen, that I would do that for him. And, but yes, after he died, I remember thinking, gosh, should I have taken him back to New York? Should I, I researched the doctor here, like, you know, unbelievably. It was very hard to move out of state with a terminally ill person. But I had done all my research and asked all my questions. And what we have to realize, and honestly, we are human, right? We are making the best decisions we possibly can at the time with the information that is given to us. And in reminding yourself of that, you need to cut yourself some slack, show yourself some grace. We love these people. We would do anything we could possibly do. I made sure he was without pain. We just want the process to be peaceful. You know, he worried so much. He did not want to die. He verbalized that, what will happen to my family. I made sure, Stephen, never worry. We have great family. We have great friends. I will be okay. I will be okay. But yes, I often thought, my God, you know, should I have just gotten him back up north? Should we have gotten to the cancer treatment center of Mars? I don't, you know, they're all over the place. But I had discussed that with Stephen. And he, as the patient, said, no, babe, because if there was some magical treatment, we would have known about this, right? He didn't want to become a science project, a research person. We trusted our healthcare team, and I have to be confident in that. But yes, I questioned myself for a very, very long time.
Tell me what one of your best moments was with him as a caregiver.
Okay, now I hope I can say this, but
what not? Careful.
okay. So we had two wonderful moments. One in which I allowed myself to cry. And he said to me in the kitchen, are you okay? And I said, I'm not okay. And he said, I know. And we just cried. We hugged and cried. But there was a day, his sister our family had come to visit when they could. And, my daughter was unbelievably helpful. And, by the end, it was tough. He was in diapers and in the bed. But I said to him, okay, babe, what sign are you going to send me? Because his sister Janie had asked for a white feather and somebody asked for something else. So this is my Stephen. And anybody who knew and loved my Stephen can really get this. And I think they're going to giggle if they're watching. And he said, I'm going to send you a fart. And I said, a fart? Why am I getting a fart? I have been putting up with your farts for 38 years. And I'll never forget, he was in the hospital bed. And I'm saying, a fart? Like, that's what you're sending me? And he just said to me, but if you know my Stephen, he said to me, babe, don't you worry about it. It's not going to be just one sign. I'll always let you know that I'm around. But initially, when he said fart, I said, I think somebody else should get that because I've already been smelling them for too many years. And we laughed, but it was just a funny moment. And you have to remember, we were planning for, we were picking music and the conversations that you have to have or that you find yourself having are just, it's bizarre. It blows you away. So,
okay, final question. Thanks for that one, Deb. And I didn't know that about Steve. So
yeah, he was too much.
What would you suggest to somebody that has just become a caregiver to somebody? Because we're running out of time. As usually, this goes very quickly with you. But quickly give, in a nutshell, advice to somebody that has to care for somebody who's come down with a medical crisis.
Don't deny. What I would say is don't deny your own feelings. You are entitled to them. Don't feel guilty because you feel, oh my God, I'm not the patient. Why should I feel like this? He's the one going through it. No, you're going through something too. And it's very serious. And it's scary for you as well. Take that moment. If you need to, go outside, take a breath. Put your face up to the sky like you're a sunflower, the tallest sunflower, and just feel that sun and take a breath. You need to cry in the shower, cry in the shower. Don't deny your own feelings because they're very real and they're valid. So please, and yes, self-care is huge. It's huge. And please don't deny yourself these things. And please don't feel guilt.
Well, do you believe how fast this went?
No. And I have
to every time. Okay. One more, Deb, final thought? Sure. You've got about 10 seconds.
Going into the treatment room, I wasn't sure what I had to offer people. I really wasn't. And I could never imagine myself doing that. I'm an overthinker. I'm a worrier. I'm a fretter. And I just said, I'm going in there because I know I have something to offer, having been a caregiver and then the patient 2 years later. And I couldn't describe what it was, but I knew it was there. I felt it in my heart. And when I'm in that treatment room, it comes pretty naturally. And I thank the patients for allowing me to be there, for allowing me to be part of their process, for sharing their thoughts, for asking my opinion, for going over surgery post-op and what worked for you, or we're playing with lipstick colors, or some of the patients want to know if I'm ever going to date. Like, we just cover all kinds of things and we make that treatment room as best as we can. And when they thank me and say, I couldn't have done it without you, I realize that is where I'm supposed to be. But honestly, I just kind of went in there being Deb.
Thank you, Deb. And
Thank
for
you
tuning in,
so
everybody.
much.
Thank you. I
Yes.
love you.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you, Hannah.
everybody. Bye. Thanks,
Take
Anna.
care.
See you next week. Bye-bye.